Activity 6, Part A, Mendel's Life. So I'm going to read Part A, Mendel's Life, if you would like to follow along. In 1865, Gregor Mendel published his work on the behavior of genes. Mendel lived in a monastery. Side note, that is a religious house that housed different monks and other Christian followers. Mendel lived in a monastery that was devoted to teaching and science as well as religious matters. Mendel had prepared to be a science teacher and had studied math, botany, which is the study of plants, and plant breeding for several years. The monastery had an experimental garden for agricultural research. Side note, this meant that they had a special section of their gardens just meant for people to explore and play around with things to try to experiment with them. Going on. Research then and now included crossbreeding varieties of plants and animals in order to produce superior food and other products. Mendel became increasingly interested in the pea plants he was working on. He wondered how the colors, shapes, and heights of offspring pea plants were related to those of the parent pea plants. He began a careful study of how characteristics are inherited in pea plants. Mendel's discoveries depended upon research about breeding plants, careful experiments, and creative thinking about how to explain the evidence he collected. He understood that plant seeds are produced by sexual reproduction. Okay, side note, remember what we learned in Activity 3 about sexual versus asexual. Going on. He also understood the mathematics of probability. Mendel deliberately crossed specific parent plants to produce and study the traits of the offspring. That meant he picked and chose. His experiments were planned so carefully and recorded so thoroughly that anyone could repeat his procedure and confirm his findings. The patterns he discovered applied to all sexually reproducing organisms, from petunias to peas, from earthworms to humans. His discoveries have helped people answer questions ranging from how to produce disease-resistant food crops to explaining human diseases such as cystic fibrosis and sickle cell disease. So in your first stop to think question, you're going to answer, what personal qualities and experiences do you think helped Mendel in his work? To answer that, you're going to have to think about what kind of environment he lived in, what he did, and what the monastery had for him to use. Also think about what kind of qualities would make a good scientist.